Bad dude. Continuing a previous story about my dad and race, my dad was not a racist, but he was uneducated concerning race. He carried images in his head that he obtained from living a life in a white community in rural Iowa. He had not been exposed to people who were different from him. He also had the images that televisions and newspapers put into his head, that white people should fear black people. Jump into the future from 1969 to 1978. I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and working for an urban ministry, Midwest Challenge, in their book division, and I had an assignment to interview a man by the name of Ted Jefferson. Ted had lived a life of crime, culminating in a first-degree murder conviction. He had recently written a book outlining his life story and how God had intervened in his life. He had been paroled, unheard of for a first-degree murder conviction, and was running a halfway house in North Minneapolis. On the weekend that I had scheduled to do the interview, my folks came to town to visit, and I asked my dad if he'd like to go along. He agreed. As we were nearing our destination, it was apparent to my dad that we were driving into an African-American part of town. As we entered the house where the interview was going to be, my dad became visibly nervous. We sat down at a kitchen table with several African-American men who had all been convicted of some violent felony. By this time, I imagine my dad was about to pee his pants. I believe he thought that we were going to be beaten, robbed, and killed at any moment. And then Ted Jefferson walked in. Ted was a compassionate Christian filled with love and concern for his fellow man, and he was dedicated to helping others. He quickly made my dad feel at ease, and he shared his story and his vision. Ted gave my dad an autographed copy of his latest book, and I know it had a lasting impression on Dad, as he spoke of it often. I can picture my dad back in Iowa Falls at the morning coffee club telling the others about he met this one bad dude in Minneapolis and lived to tell the story. My dad has been gone a good number of years, and I regret we did not visit more. Ted has since passed on, and perhaps he, my dad, and Bob Tate are all having a good time in heaven, singing and telling stories. It's a pleasant thought for me.